The exploration vessel, Radiant Seeker, limped into Republic space, trailing frozen atmosphere like blood and water. Captain Venthoris had been exploring the edges of known space for 12 years. He'd seen stellar nurseries where stars were born in clouds of cosmic fire. He'd mapped nebulae that sang with radiation harmonics. He'd cataloged 300 systems the Republic didn't know existed. He had never seen anything that made his crew fall silent with dread. "Repeat your report," Admiral Garam Weft said from the holo-terminal, his Duros features sharp with suspicion. "You found what?" "A graveyard, sir." Thoris's voice carried the flat effect of someone who'd stopped processing wonder and moved directly to horror. Ship fragments scattered across 17 cubic kilometers. Technology we don't recognize. Weapons that don't match any known civilization. And, he paused, cryostasis pods, intact, still powered. The Admiral's head-tails twitched. "These survivors?" "Unclear. The pods are sealed. Military grade. Whatever war these people were fighting, they built their suspension technology to last millennia." Thoris looked off-screen at something. "Admiral, our medical droid analyzed the biosignatures. They're human. But the genetic markers are wrong. Enhanced. Modified beyond anything the Republic's ever attempted." "Modified how?" "Augmented skeletal structure, increased muscle density, neural interface points, hormone regulation systems. Sir, these aren't natural humans. Someone engineered them for war." The Admiral was silent for 3 seconds. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of someone who'd just been handed a problem that would define his career. "How many?" 47 pods. 31 still show life signs. Bring them to Coruscant. Medical quarantine protocols. And Captain. Weft leaned forward. "Tell absolutely no one what you found. If the Senate learns we've recovered engineered soldiers before the Jedi Council does, the political fallout will burn us all." The transmission ended. Thoris stood alone on his bridge, staring at the tactical display showing the derelict fleet. Somewhere in that wreckage were answers to questions humanity shouldn't have asked. How to make soldiers who couldn't be broken. How to wage war without fear, without hesitation, without the luxury of doubt. And he wondered which was worse, the war that created them, or the war they were about to inherit. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant existed in a state of barely controlled crisis. Master Vrook Lamar studied the star charts with the grim attention of a surgeon examining a terminal patient. Red marked Sith-controlled space. Amber marked contested systems. Green marked Republic holdings. 3 months ago, green had covered 40% of the map. Now it covered 19. The Serico defense failed. Night Alec, tall, dark-haired, radiating barely suppressed frustration, gestured at a cluster of amber icons turning red. 3 Jedi Masters dead, 8 Padawans lost, an entire battle group destroyed because we couldn't predict where the Sith fleet would emerge from hyperspace. "The Force warned us," Master Vandar said quietly from his meditation cushion. The diminutive Jedi's ears drooped with exhaustion. "We felt the danger." "Feeling danger isn't enough when the Sith can cloud their intentions." Alec's voice rose. "We need better intelligence, better tactics. We need to trust the Force," Vrook interrupted, his voice carrying decades of authority. "As we always have." "Night, Alec. Your impatience will lead to the dark side, if you're not careful. My impatience is keeping Padawans alive, Alex shot back. Before Vrook could respond, the chamber doors opened. Master Kavar entered, on his normally composed features troubled. The council is summoned. Immediately. The Republic has recovered something from beyond known space. Something the Force. He paused, struggling with words. Something the Force cannot see. The medical quarantine facility beneath the Senate building was designed to contain planetary contagions. Today, it contained something the Republic's bioscanners insisted was human, despite every instinct screaming otherwise. For 12 Jedi Masters stood in the observation gallery, looking down at the cryopod that medical teams were carefully thawing. Master Vandar closed his eyes, reaching into the Force. Around him, the other Masters did the same. The galaxy revealed itself as it always did. A vast web of connection, every living thing a point of light tied to every other. The Force flowed through the Senate chambers above, through the streets of Coruscant, through the medical staff working below, through everything, except the pod. Where the frozen soldier lay, the Force showed nothing. Not death. Death had a presence, a final note in the great symphony. This was absence, a hole in the Force shaped like a human being. Impossible, Master Vrook whispered. Miraluka are blind to that pod, Master Kavar observed, gesturing to a Jedi whose species saw only through the Force. She reports complete sensory void, as if nothing occupies that space at all. The medical droid's voice crackled over the intercom. Thawing sequence complete. Subject is viable. Neural activity resuming. He's waking up. Below, the pod's canopy split with a hiss of equalizing pressure. A hand emerged. Too large, too perfect. Fingers that moved with mechanical precision. Then an arm. Then a figure sitting up with the fluid control of someone whose body had been rebuilt to exceed human limitations. He was young, maybe 20 standard years. His head was shaved. His eyes, when they opened, were the gray of gunmetal and carried the exhausted awareness of someone who'd seen things that couldn't be unseen. Neural interface ports dotted the base of his skull. Surgical scars traced geometric patterns across skin that biomonitors insisted was twice as dense as human tissue should be. When he breathed, his chest expanded further than anatomy allowed. He looked up at the observation gallery. 12 Jedi Masters looked down, and for the first time in their lives, every single one felt what millions of civilians had felt watching Jedi approach. The cold terror of meeting something that shouldn't exist. The soldier spoke. His voice was hoarse from years of cryo-sleep, but perfectly clear. Spartan B-312 reporting. Where am I? What's my operational status? Master Jar Leston leaned forward, extending his awareness carefully. Can you understand me? Affirmative. Standard basic. Where's my commanding officer? Where's Noble Team? You were found in deep space. Your vessel was destroyed. You were alone. Jar paused. What do you remember? The Spartan was silent for exactly 3 seconds, cataloging, processing, analyzing. When he spoke again, his voice carried the flat acceptance of someone trained to adapt to mission failure. How long was I in cryo? Unknown. Your technology doesn't match our databases. Centuries, possibly. Perhaps millennia. Another 3-second pause. Understood. What's the current tactical situation? Tactical situation? Vrook's voice carried aristocratic disdain. "Young man, you've been recovered by the Galactic Republic. You're safe. There's no need for... If you recovered military assets from a dead war zone, you're either salvaging in peacetime or you're desperate in wartime." The Spartan's gray eyes locked onto Vrook with mechanical precision. "Your body language reads as stress. Now your facility is military-grade quarantine, and you're treating me like a potential weapon, not a refugee. So I'll ask again. What's the tactical situation?" Every Jedi in the gallery felt it simultaneously, not through the Force, because the Force showed them nothing. Through simple, terrible recognition. Whoever had built this soldier had done it so well that he could read a room full of space wizards without needing magic. Master Kavar found himself speaking before he consciously decided to. "We're at war. The Sith Empire is destroying us. Our forces are being crushed by enemies who can predict our movements through the Force, and we..." He stopped, realizing what he was about to say. "You need weapons the Force can't predict," the Spartan finished. His expression didn't change. "You need soldiers the enemy can't manipulate. You need people who can't be touched by whatever psychic warfare you're facing." He stood. Medical monitors shrieked as they registered muscle density and bone structure that shouldn't support human life. He was 2 meters tall. His shoulders were broader than any humans had a right to be. "I'm Spartan B-312, Noble 6. If you've got other pods, you've got more Spartans. If you need soldiers who fight without faith, without fear, and without question..." His gray eyes swept across the gallery. "Oh, you found us!" Master Vandar felt something he hadn't experienced in 800 years of Jedi service. The presence of an answer to a question the Force refused to provide. And the sick certainty that accepting this answer would cost the Order something it could never recover. "Bring him to the temple," Vandar said quietly, "and wake the others." The Jedi Temple's council chamber had witnessed 10,000 years of decisions that shaped the galaxy. Today, it hosted something that made those millennia feel suddenly fragile. Spartan B-312 stood at parade rest in the chamber's center, hands behind his back, feet shoulder-width apart. He'd been standing perfectly still for 17 minutes while the council debated his existence. His breathing hadn't changed. His posture hadn't shifted. His gray eyes tracked each speaker with mechanical precision. He looked like a statue of war given human form. "This is a mistake," Master Vrook said from his seat, his weathered hands gripping his chair's armrests. "The Force shows us nothing about these soldiers. They are voids, absences. How can we trust what we cannot sense?" "The same way Republic citizens trust us," Master Kavar replied quietly. "With faith, that intention matters more than power." "Faith?" Vrook's voice rose. "He's been awake for 6 hours and already knows our defensive positions, fleet deployments, and strategic weaknesses. He's memorized this temple's layout from a single walk through its halls. This isn't a person. It's a weapon cataloging targets." B-312's voice cut through the argument like a precision instrument. "Permission to speak, Masters?" The council fell silent. Master Vandar gestured permission. "You're correct, Master Vrook. I am a weapon. I was designed, trained, and deployed to eliminate threats to humanity. But weapons don't choose their targets. Soldiers do. I'm asking what you're asking me. Can you be trusted? His gray eyes swept the council. Because I've woken in a galaxy where human civilization is losing a war against an enemy I don't understand, protected by an order of warrior monks who can read minds and see the future. From my perspective, you're the unknowable threat. Master Jar leaned forward, his ancient features thoughtful. Yet you haven't attempted escape, haven't attacked. You've cooperated with every examination, answered every question. Why? Because I have incomplete intelligence. In my experience, incomplete intelligence kills more soldiers than enemy action. B-312's tone carried no emotion, just tactical assessment. You're evaluating whether I'm a threat. I'm evaluating whether you're the enemy. So far, you've treated me like a refugee, not a prisoner. That suggests you might be worth trusting. Might be? Master Vrook's voice dripped with aristocratic offense. I've been a soldier for 15 years, Master. Trust is something you earn, not something you demand. B-312's expression didn't change. Now, are we going to continue philosophical debate, or are you going to tell me why you're losing a war when you can literally see the future? The chamber fell silent. Several council members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Finally, Master Gavar spoke. The Sith can cloud the Force. They hide their intentions, corrupt Force visions, turn our own precognition against us. We sense danger, but not its source. We feel darkness, but cannot locate it. And by the time we understand what we're sensing, he paused. Our forces are already dying. B-312 processed this for exactly 2 seconds. Then you need reconnaissance assets the enemy can't detect, forward observers they can't sense, intelligence gatherers who operate outside their sensory capabilities. His gray eyes locked onto Vandar. You need Spartans. We need to understand what you are first, Master Vandar said gently. Noble Six, you've told us your designation. Tell us your story. How were you created? For the first time since entering the chamber, B-312's perfect stillness fractured. His jaw tightened microscopically. His breathing rate increased by 3 beats per minute. Classified, he said. Well, we're not your enemy, Master Kavar said. You can. I said classified, Master. B-312's voice carried new weight. My origins are need to know. You don't need to know. What you need to know is whether I can do the job. Everything else is operational security. Master Vrook stood. This is exactly what I warned about. He admits he's withholding information. He could be a Sith creation, a Republic weapon experiment gone wrong, or a soldier protecting information that could be weaponized against his people. Master Jar interrupted. Something every intelligence operative in this galaxy does, including our own shadows. The observation hit hard. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. A chime interrupted the debate. Master Vandar touched a control, and a hologram materialized. Admiral Weft, his Duros features rigid with military precision. Masters, apologies for the interruption. We've completed preliminary examinations of the other recovered pods. Medical staff reports. He paused, choosing words carefully. 30 viable subjects. All show similar augmentation patterns. All are combat personnel, and all their equipment is functional. What equipment? Master Kavar asked. Weft gestured off-screen. The hologram shifted to show a Republic technician standing next to what looked like armor. Except armor didn't move like liquid mercury, or didn't generate faint energy shields, didn't have integrated computer systems more advanced than most Republic starfighters. They call it Mjolnir armor. Our analysts estimate it would take us 2 centuries to reverse engineer the shield technology alone. Each suit is effectively a one-person tank with stealth capabilities. Weft's voice dropped. Masters, if all 30 soldiers are equipped like this, and they're as effective as the one you're interviewing, we could end the war, Master Vrook whispered. And suddenly his objections sounded very different. Not principled. Frightened. B-312's voice cut through the implications. Where's my team? Admiral Weft's hologram refocused. Your team? Noble team. I was deployed with 5 other Spartans. Jorge 052, Catherine B 320, Carter A 259, John A 266, Emil A 239. Where are they? The silence stretched. Admiral Weft looked to Master Vandar, to who nodded permission. We found 47 pods. 31 showed life signs. 16 were dead. Life support had failed. The bodies were... Weft stopped. B-312's expression didn't change. Not one muscle moved. But every Jedi in the chamber suddenly felt cold, despite the Force showing them nothing from the Spartan. Show me the casualty list, B-312 said, his voice perfectly level. The hologram shifted. Names scrolled. The Republic analysts had done their best to translate the strange designation system. B-312's eyes tracked each name with mechanical precision until... Carter, a 259, deceased, life support failure. Catherine B, 320, deceased, life support failure. Emil, a 239, deceased, life support failure. 3 names, 3 soldiers, 3 people whose faces B-312 had known, whose voices he'd heard, whose presence had meant he wasn't alone in the war. Gone. He stood perfectly still for 10 seconds. His breathing didn't change. His posture didn't shift. When he spoke, his voice carried the same flat, tactical tone. I need to see the surviving Spartans. I need to assess their condition. I need to establish a chain of command. And then, his gray eyes swept the council. You're going to brief me on your war. Because I just lost 3/5 of my team to life support failure while you debated philosophy. And I won't lose anyone else to incomplete intelligence. You dare address this council with, Vrook began. Master Vrook. B-312's interruption was quiet, but absolute. I've been awake for 6 hours and 43 minutes. In that time, I've learned that your Republic is losing a war against an enemy that can read minds and see the future. That your military is being destroyed because the enemy can predict your movements. That you found soldiers specifically immune to that advantage, and your first instinct was to debate whether we deserve to exist. He took 1 step forward, just 1. But the movement carried such controlled violence that 3 council members reached for lightsabers. My team is dead. 30 of my people are waking up in a universe that isn't theirs, surrounded by strangers who see them as tools. And somewhere out there, your soldiers are dying because you're too proud to admit you need help. His voice dropped to something colder than cryo-sleep. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to take me to the other Spartans. You're going to brief us on tactical realities. And then we're going to do what Spartans do best. We're going to win your war." "And if we refuse?" Master Vrook asked, his hand on his lightsaber. B-312 looked at him with the exhausted patience of someone explaining tactics to a child. "So then I walk out of this temple, find the nearest Republic recruitment station, and enlist as a private. Because I'm a soldier, Master. With you or without you, I will find the war. The only question is whether you're smart enough to use us properly." Master Vandar closed his eyes. In 800 years of service, he'd guided the Council through countless crises. He'd felt the Force show him paths forward through impossible situations. Now the Force showed him nothing. Just a soldier standing in silence, offering a simple exchange. "Trust us to fight your war, and we'll trust you to be worth fighting for." "Admiral Weft," Vandar said quietly, "begin waking the other Spartans. Noble Six, you'll have your briefing." He opened his ancient eyes. "But understand this. If you fight for the Republic, you fight under Jedi command. We will not unleash weapons we cannot control." B-312's expression didn't change. "Understood, Master. On one condition. You're not in a position to negotiate. I am, if you want us to win." B-312's gray eyes locked onto Vandar's. "When I'm in the field, my team follows my orders. Not yours, not the Force's. Mine. Because I can't sense danger before it happens. I can't read enemy intentions, and I can't predict the future. All I can do is keep my people alive using nothing but training, tactics, and trust. That's not how the Jedi. That's how Spartans work." B-312's voice carried finality. "You want soldiers the Force can't touch? Then accept that we fight differently. You provide strategic objectives. We provide results. Anything else gets people killed." The Council exchanged glances. This wasn't cooperation. It was negotiation between equals. Between the Order that had guided the Republic for millennia, and soldiers who'd fought wars where faith was a luxury no one could afford. Master Vandar felt the weight of futures he couldn't see pressing against decisions he had to make blind. "Agreed," he whispered. "May the Force be with you, Noble Six." B-312's response came without hesitation, without understanding, without any sense. He'd just shattered 10,000 years of tradition. "I don't need the Force, Master. I have my team." He turned and walked from the chamber, leaving 12 Jedi Masters staring at the space where something they couldn't sense had just rewritten the rules of war. Outside, on Coruscant's endless streets, the Republic continued burning. But in a medical facility beneath the Senate, 30 Spartans were waking up. And the Sith Empire was about to learn what happened when faith met certainty. When chosen ones met built weapons. When the Force touched soldiers who couldn't be touched back. The Valiant, a Hammerhead-class cruiser, dropped out of hyperspace 3,000 kilometers from Serico, and immediately every sensor screamed warnings. Sith warships hung in formation, like predators circling wounded prey. 12 capital ships, 40 starfighters, and something else. Something that made the Republic crew's blood run cold. Orbital bombardment platforms, already firing. On Serico's surface, cities burned. "Get me tactical," Commander Saul Karath shouted from the captain's chair, his voice fighting to be heard over alarms. "How many civilians?" 8 million on the surface, his sensor officer reported, her voice shaking. Bombardment patterns suggest they're targeting population centers, not military installations. Population centers. Karath's hands clenched. Where's our Jedi support? Jedi Strike Team Delta is en route. ETA 12 minutes. We don't have 12 minutes. Karath slammed his fist against the armrest. By the time they arrive, half those cities will be Commander. A new voice. Calm, precise, completely without fear. Every head on the bridge turned to the figure standing in the tactical alcove. Spartan B-312, now wearing armor that looked like it had been forged from nightmares and military engineering. The Mjolnir suit made him massive, inhuman, a silhouette of war that moved with impossible grace. Noble Six, Karath acknowledged, using the designation the Spartans insisted on. Your tactical assessment? The Sith aren't trying to destroy Serico. They're trying to force you into a rescue operation. B-312's helmeted head tilted toward the display. Standard siege doctrine. Create civilian casualties to split your forces between combat and evacuation. When you commit to saving civilians, they strike your weakened fleet. We know that, Karath said through gritted teeth. But we can't just let 8 million people die. Agreed. So we don't split our forces. We remove their ability to target civilians. B-312's gauntleted finger traced trajectories on the holographic display. Those bombardment platforms are the real threat. Kill them, and the surface becomes defensible. Your Jedi can handle the capital ships. My team handles the platforms. Your team? Karath's voice rose with something between hope and horror. There are 3 platforms. Each one has shields, point defense systems, and a garrison of 50 Sith soldiers. Yeah, you're proposing to assault fortified positions in the middle of a fleet engagement with how many Spartans? 12. B-312's voice carried no doubt. Stealth insertion via drop pods, sabotage shield generators, plant charges, extract before detonation, standard infiltration protocol. That's suicide. No, Commander, that's Tuesday. Before Karath could respond, another voice crackled over the comms, female, carrying the resonant calm of someone who'd fought beside the Force for decades. This is Jedi Master Arca Jeth aboard the Courageous. We're exiting hyperspace now. Commander Karath, hold position. We'll engage the Sith fleet directly. Master Jeth, Karath said quickly. Noble Six has proposed an alternative. I'm aware. The Jedi's voice carried new weight. The Force shows me his presence on this battlefield. Or rather, it shows me the absence where he stands. It's unsettling. But his logic is sound. If the Spartans can eliminate those platforms while we engage the fleet, we save millions. Master, B-312 interrupted, his voice cutting across military protocol with practiced efficiency. I need your strike team to draw Sith attention. Make them think you're the primary threat. Give us the chaos we need for insertion. A pause. Then, understood. Jedi forces will engage in 3 minutes. May the Force... She stopped, reconsidering. May your aim be true, Spartan. Always is, B-312 replied. The drop pod screamed through Serico's upper atmosphere, ablative shielding glowing white-hot as friction turned insertion into controlled falling. Inside, Spartan B-312 stood locked in the deployment harness, 12 other Spartans secured around him. Their armor's biomonitors showed elevated heart rates, not from fear, but from combat stimulants their augmented bodies processed like Republic citizens processed water. 30 seconds to impact, B312 announced over the team channel. We remember, these aren't Covenant. They're human. Fast, trained, and armed with energy weapons that can kill you. Shields will hold for approximately 6 hits before failure. After that, you're relying on armor and reflexes. Copy that, Spartan 309 responded, her voice carrying grim humor. So basically, don't get hit 7 times. Easy. Negative Sierra 309. Don't get hit once. Every wound compromises performance. We're outnumbered 40-1. A perfect execution or we die. The pod slammed into the first bombardment platform's hull with force that would have liquefied unaugmented humans. Spartans barely felt it. Explosive bolts fired. The pod's sides peeled away, and 12 Spartans poured into a corridor designed for routine maintenance, not military assault. The first Sith soldier died without seeing what killed him. 3 rounds from B312's MA5 rifle punching through his chest before his force-enhanced reflexes could register threat. The second managed to ignite his lightsaber. The superheated blade met Spartan shields, energy crackling, and B312 shot him in the throat while the Sith was still surprised his weapon hadn't penetrated. "Contact front," a 309 shouted, her battle rifle hammering rounds down the corridor. "They're converging on our position. Estimate 20 hostiles incoming." "Good," B312 said, already moving. "Let them come. Team 2, proceed to shield generators. Team 1, with me. We're the distraction." They moved like synchronized violence, 6 Spartans advancing through corridors that suddenly erupted with Sith defenders. Lightsabers ignited, blaster bolts filled the air, and the Force itself seemed to recoil from the holes in reality that were Spartans. A Scythe Marauder extended his hand, reaching into B312's mind to crush it with terror, and found nothing to grip. The moment of confusion cost him. B312's rifle barked once. The Marauder dropped, on the hole where his third eye should have been. "They can't sense us," a 309's voice carried savage satisfaction. "They're fighting blind." "Exploit it," B312 ordered, his HUD tracking 14 more contacts converging. "A 309, frag out!" The fragmentation grenade arced through the air, bounced twice, detonated in a cluster of Sith soldiers, whose Force precognition had warned them of danger, but couldn't tell them from which direction. The Spartans weren't just winning. They were making Force users fight like normal soldiers, and normal soldiers died. Aboard the courageous, Master Arca Jeth stood on the bridge, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as her mind stretched across the battlefield. The Force showed her futures branching like infinite trees, her fleet engaging the Sith capital ships, Jedi starfighters weaving through point defense fire, the dance of combat that she'd witnessed 1,000 times. But where the Spartans fought, the Force showed her nothing, just empty space on the bombardment platforms, where soldiers were dying in ways the Force refused to predict. "Master Jeth," her commander said quietly, "the Spartans have breached Platform 2. Platform 1's shields are fluctuating. They must have reached the generators. Platform 3 is..." He paused, reading sensors. "Platform 3 just went dark. All power offline. 3 platforms, 12 Spartans, 8 minutes. Impossible, Jeth whispered. Shall we dispatch support? No. Jeth's eyes tracked the tactical display. They're exactly where they plan to be. The Force may not show me their presence, but it shows me their results. And those results. She paused, feeling something she hadn't experienced in decades of war. Our victory. B-312's HUD painted the shield generator in tactical overlay. Massive, humming with power, protected by 8 Sith soldiers, whose lightsabers cast the chamber in red and purple light. "The contact rear," one Sith shouted, Force-enhanced reflexes spinning him toward the Spartans bursting through the door. His lightsaber met ballistic rounds. 4 shots. Center mass. The Sith's precognition had warned him of danger. It hadn't warned him that Spartans didn't care about his sword. 7 more Sith died in 6 seconds. Not because the Spartans were faster, but because they fought with absolute certainty. No hesitation. No fear. No wonder about whether they could win. Just mechanical execution of tactical doctrine, refined through wars where losing meant extinction. B-312 planted the last charge on the generator's power conduit. Charges set, 30 seconds to detonation. All teams, extract now. The Spartans moved like water flowing backward, through corridors they'd memorized on first pass, past bodies of soldiers who died before understanding they were fighting something the Force couldn't predict. The drop pods launched just as the charges detonated. 3 orbital platforms died in synchronized explosions, their shield generators failing, their reactors going critical, their ability to murder civilians below evaporating in nuclear fire. On Seriko's surface, 8 million people watched the sky stop burning and didn't understand why. Aboard the Valiant, Commander Kareth stared at his tactical display with the expression of someone whose reality had just been rewritten. Platform 1 destroyed. Platform 2 destroyed. Platform 3 destroyed. His sensor officer's voice carried disbelief. Spartan teams reporting successful extraction. 0 casualties. 0? Karath whispered. Master Arca Jeth's hologram materialized beside his command chair. Commander, the Sith fleet is retreating. Without their bombardment platforms, they can't hold this position against our combined forces. Seriko is secure. The Spartans saved this world. No, Jeth said softly, and for the first time in her 200 years, she sounded uncertain. They saved us. We were going to sacrifice ships trying to protect civilians while fighting the Sith fleet. They eliminated the civilians' threat, leaving us free to fight properly. They saw what needed to be done and simply did it. Without the Force. Without the Force, Jeth confirmed. Commander, in 300 years of study, I've learned to trust that the Force guides us toward right action. Today, I watched soldiers who cannot feel the Force achieve what our precognition said was impossible. Her ancient eyes found Kareth's through the hologram. I don't know what disturbs me more, that they succeeded, or that the Force never warned me they would. The hologram faded. Kareth sat alone with his thoughts and a battle report that would change Republic strategy forever. 12 Spartans, 3 fortified platforms, 0 casualties. Victory through certainty instead of faith. And somewhere in the Force, something ancient and vast felt a disturbance it couldn't name, like a note missing from a symphony, like silence where sound should be. The Sith Empire had spent a century learning to corrupt Force visions, to cloud precognition, to turn the Jedi's greatest strength into weakness. They had never considered what happened when warriors arrived who didn't need precognition, who didn't care about destiny, who simply fought until the enemy stopped breathing. The war had changed, and every Sith Lord across the galaxy felt it through the Force, not as presence, but as absence, as the arrival of soldiers who couldn't be touched, as the sound of prophecy dying. The Senate chamber had seen 10,000 debates. Today's felt different. Senator Tol Kressa of Kuat stood at the podium, his amplified voice carrying across the assembled delegates. Sirocco was saved by soldiers, not space wizards. 3 platforms destroyed, 8 million lives preserved, 0 Spartan casualties. He paused for effect. Compare that to the Jedi operation at Onderon 2 weeks ago. 17 Jedi Knights deployed, 4 returned. The objective failed. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. On the Jedi observation platform, Master Vrook's weathered hands clenched. "I'm not suggesting we abandon the Jedi Order," Kressa continued, his tone carefully diplomatic. "I'm asking why we're paying for prophecy when we could be funding results." The murmurs became arguments. Delegates shouted across chamber divides. And in the chaos, a simple question took root. If Spartans are more effective than Jedi, why do we need Jedi? The Jedi Temple's training hall had witnessed millennia of Padawans learning to trust the Force. Today, 3 Padawans watched something else entirely. Spartan B-312 moved through the obstacle course with mechanical precision, 40-meter sprint, vertical wall climb, precision shooting, close quarters navigation. His time, 47 seconds. The Jedi record, 52 seconds. Held by a master who'd spent 3 centuries perfecting the course using Force-enhanced speed. Zenobel 6 had beaten it without touching the Force at all. "How?" Padawan Zane Carrick whispered, his perpetually disheveled appearance making him look younger than his 19 years. "The wall section is impossible without Force jump." "He used momentum," Padawan Shad Jalavan observed, his analytical mind processing the movement. "See how he hit the wall at an angle? His armor's strength enhancement let him run 3 steps vertically before grabbing the ledge. A pure physics." "That's not how we're supposed to do it," Padawan Garn said, his voice uncertain. "Maybe that's the problem," Shad replied quietly. The door opened. Master Vandar entered, his diminutive form radiating concerned authority. "Padawans, you should be in meditation." "Master, we were just," Zane began. "Watching a demonstration of what can be achieved without the Force," Vandar finished. His large eyes studied each Padawan. "Tell me what troubles you." Silence. Then Shad spoke, his words careful. "Master, at Sirocco, the Spartans achieved in 8 minutes what we've been trying to do for 3 months. They saved millions. And they did it without destiny, without prophecy, without the Force guiding them." He paused. "If they can do that, what do we offer?" Vandar's ears drooped with ancient sadness. "The Force is not a tool for victory, Padawan. It is a path to understanding, to balance." "But understanding doesn't stop bombardment platforms," Garn said. and immediately looked shocked he'd spoken. No, Vandar admitted, it does not. But victory without wisdom leads to darkness. The Spartans fight with perfect efficiency. They win battles. But do they understand the cost? Do they feel the lives they take? Or do they simply execute and move to the next objective? Is feeling the cost required if the objective is righteous? Shad asked. Vandar had no answer. In a Republic military briefing room, Admiral Weft studied casualty reports with growing unease. Since Spartan deployment began 6 weeks ago, 14 operations, 13 victories, combined Jedi-Spartan casualty rate, 8%. Previous Jedi-only operations, 42% casualty rate. He looked up at Master Kavar. Master, the data is undeniable. When Spartans lead tactical operations and Jedi provide support, we win. And when Jedi lead? Kavar asked quietly. We lose, Weft said bluntly. So your precognition warns of danger, but the Sith cloud your visions. You sense threats but can't locate them precisely. The Spartans don't have that problem. They don't need to sense danger. They prepare for it. We have led Republic forces for 3,000 years. And in the last 3,000 years, have you fought an enemy that can corrupt the Force itself? Weft's voice softened. Master Kavar, I have immense respect for the Order. But respect doesn't win wars. Our results do. Kavar stood silent, feeling the weight of implications he couldn't avoid. The Republic was learning to trust certainty over faith, and faith, once questioned, became doubt. The Sith war room aboard the Dreadnought Decimator hosted a very different conversation. Darth Malak, tall, imposing, his jaw hidden behind a metallic respirator, studied holographic recordings of the Seriko battle. Play it again. The recording showed Spartans moving through corridors, killing Sith soldiers with mechanical efficiency. A marauder tried force persuasion. Nothing. An assassin attempted precognition. Failed. A lord reached into a Spartan's mind and found only silence. They're not just force null, Malak said, his voice distorted by the respirator. They're force absent, as if the universe carved holes where they stand. A weakness we can exploit, Darth Bandon suggested, his pale features eager. Or a strength we've never encountered. Malak waved away the recording. For 3,000 years, the Sith have fought Force users. We know how to corrupt Jedi, how to turn their precognition into paranoia, their compassion into weakness. But these soldiers? He paused. They don't have compassion. They have objectives. They don't have doubt. They have doctrine. Then we kill them, Bandon said simply. No. Malak's voice carried dark amusement. We show them what they are. The Jedi see them as allies. The Republic sees them as saviors. But I see the truth. They're weapons. Built. Programmed. Deployed. And every weapon has a weakness. Which is, they don't know they're slaves. On Coruscant, in a recovered Spartan facility, Spartan B-312 stood before a recovered data terminal, accessing files the Republic's technicians had unlocked. Medical records, training logs, origin documentation. His hands, still gloved in Mjolnir armor, clenched as he read. Subject B-312, abducted age 6. Flash-cloned replacement died within months. Parents never knew. Augmentation procedures, skeletal enhancement, muscular grafts, neural interface installation. Mortality rate, 56%. Training assessment, Subject shows exceptional adaptability. Recommended for high-risk operations. Expected survival rate, 32%. Behind him, Spartan A309 read over his shoulder. 6 years old, she whispered. They took us when we were 6. We knew that, B312 said, his voice flat. So knowing and seeing are different. A 309's voice carried new weight. 6. The Jedi take children too, from their families. Train them from youth. Tell them it's for a greater purpose. The Jedi ask permission, do they? Or do they tell parents their children are special, chosen, destined, and what parent refuses destiny? A 309 stepped back. We were told we were saving humanity. The Jedi tell their students they're serving the Force. Different words, same result. Children turned into weapons. B312 closed the file. Mission parameters haven't changed. The Republic needs us. We protect civilians. That's enough. Is it? A 309 asked. 6. We were built to follow orders. What if protecting the Republic is just another order we're following because we were programmed to? Then we're no different than battle droids. Exactly, a 309 said softly. Exactly. B312 stood in silence, staring at his reflection in the darkened terminal screen. Behind his visor, a gray eye studied a soldier's face and wondered, am I protecting them because it's right? Or because someone decided I would before I could choose? The question had no answer, and in the absence of certainty, doubt took root. In the Senate, delegates questioned Jedi necessity. In the temple, Padawans questioned Force guidance. In the war room, Sith planned exploitation. And in the recovered facility, Spartans questioned themselves. The war was changing, not through battles won or lost, but through the slow erosion of certainties that had held the galaxy together for millennia. Faith was becoming doubt. And doubt, once planted, grew like poison. The Vindication shuddered under Sith turbo laser fire, shields failing, hull breaching in 17 locations. All hands, abandon ship. Captain Orano's voice barely carried over alarms. Evacuate to? Negative. Spartan B312 interrupted from the tactical station. Sir, evacuation pods won't clear the blast radius before the reactor goes critical. You'll lose everyone. Then what do you suggest, Spartan? I stopped the reactor breach. That's suicide. And engineering is already flooded with radiation. I'm aware. B312 was already moving, his Mjolnir armor sealing against environmental hazards. Evacuate all personnel to forward sections. I need 4 minutes. In the Jedi battle meditation chamber, Master Zez Kai El suddenly gasped. The Force. It warns of catastrophic danger. We must retreat. Now. Master, Commander Tavion replied. The Vindication is still engaged. We can't leave them. The Force is absolute. Zez Kai El's ancient voice cracked with urgency. I see death. Thousands of deaths. If we remain, we doom the fleet. Order the retreat. Tavion's hand hovered over the comm. In 30 years of service, he'd never questioned a Jedi's Force vision. Until Noble Six's voice cut through. Commander, negative on that retreat. The Vindication's reactor can be stabilized. I need 4 minutes and the fleet to cover the evacuation. The Force warns, Zez Kai El began. The Force doesn't see me, Master. B312's voice carried no arrogance, just tactical certainty. And it can't see what I'm about to do. Trust me or retreat. Choose now. Tavion looked between the Jedi Master's terrified certainty and the Spartan's mechanical calm. He chose. All ships, cover the Vindication's evacuation. Noble 6, you have your 4 minutes. B-312 reached engineering through corridors that glowed with radiation warnings. His armor's Geiger counter screamed. Radiation levels. Lethal to humans in 30 seconds. Lethal to Spartans in 4 minutes. He had exactly the time he needed. The reactor core pulsed with unstable energy, containment fields failing, plasma beginning to cascade. B-312's HUD painted repair sequences, 17 steps, each requiring precision that would kill anyone moving too slowly. He didn't move slowly. Magnetic clamps, realigned. Coolant flow, rerouted. Containment fields, reinforced with emergency power from his armor's own fusion pack. Each action bought seconds. Each second bought lives. His radiation counter hit critical. His armor's biomonitors screamed warnings about cellular damage, about systems failing, about a body being cooked from the inside. He kept working. Noble 6, Captain Orono's voice crackled through interference. All personnel evacuated. So get out of there. 30 seconds, B-312 replied, his hand steady despite radiation poisoning that would have killed an unaugmented human 3 minutes ago. The final clamp engaged. Containment field stabilized. The reactor's critical cascade reversed. Power evening out. The ship's heart settling from chaos into steady rhythm. Reactor stabilized, B-312 reported. Ship is stable. I'm extracting. He made it 6 steps before his legs stopped working. A B-312 woke in the medical bay 12 hours later, every cell in his body screaming. Through his visor's HUD, he saw the damage report. Acute radiation poisoning, cellular degradation, augmentation systems strained to failure point. Expected recovery time, 3 weeks. Beside his bed, a figure sat in meditation. Jedi Knight Revan, young, intense, his robes bearing scorch marks from recent combat. When B-312 stirred, Revan opened his eyes. "You disobeyed a Force vision," Revan said quietly. "See, I followed the data." The Force warned of catastrophe. Master Zez Kai-El has never been wrong. His precognition is legendary. His precognition warned of the reactor explosion, B-312 said, his voice weak but certain. It didn't account for someone who could survive long enough to stop it. Because the Force can't see me. Thousands could have died. Thousands definitely would have died if we retreated. Evacuation pods don't outrun reactor explosions. Oh, I did the math. B-312's gray eyes found Revan's through the visor. Your master trusted prophecy. I trusted physics. Physics won. Revan was silent for long moments. You saved 4,000 lives. The Vindication is being repaired. Captain Orono recommended you for the Republic's highest honor. I don't need recognition. I need to know if next time your people will trust me over the Force. That's what terrifies them, Revan admitted. For 3,000 years, the Jedi have been the Republic's compass. Our connection to the Force guides strategy, predicts outcomes, shows us the right path. And then you arrive. You ignore our warnings. You achieve what we said was impossible. And you make us question. He stopped. Whether the Force is infallible, B-312 finished. Yes. Good. B-312 tried to sit up. Failed. settled back against the medical bed. The Force is a tool, powerful, but not absolute. You've been winning wars by trusting prophecy. The Sith learned to corrupt your prophecies. Now you're losing. Maybe it's time to trust something the Sith can't corrupt. Such as soldiers who don't need destiny. We just need a mission. Revan stood, his expression troubled. Noble Six, you've created a crisis in the Order. Padawans are questioning whether Force guidance matters. Masters are arguing about the value of prophecy versus tactics. You're not just fighting the Sith. You're fighting 3 millennia of tradition. I'm not fighting anything, Knight Revan. I'm just trying to keep people alive. B-312's voice carried exhaustion that went deeper than radiation damage. If your tradition can't handle that, maybe your tradition is the problem. Revan left without responding. B-312 lay in the medical bay, his body broken from saving a ship the Force said to abandon, and wondered, how many times had the Jedi retreated when the Force warned danger? How many lives were lost trusting prophecy over action? And more troubling, how many Padawans were asking the same question? In the temple archives, Padawan Zane Carrick pulled files on Force visions, their accuracy rate, their failure points, their limitations. The data was undeniable. Force visions warned of danger, but rarely provided solutions. They showed threats, but not all was their nature. They predicted catastrophe, but not how to prevent it. Spartans didn't predict catastrophe. They just stopped it. Zane closed the file, his mind churning with questions no Padawan should ask. What if certainty is better than prophecy? What if the Force isn't enough? The questions had no answers, but they wouldn't stop being asked. And across the Republic, in Senate chambers and temple halls, in military briefings and civilian homes, a new debate raged. Faith or certainty, prophecy or action, the Force or results. The war between Sith and Republic continued. But another war had begun, quieter, more insidious, fought not with lightsabers but with doubt. And doubt, once planted, grew like wildfire through dry timber, consuming everything. The prison cell was comfortable. That was the first warning. Spartan 309 woke in restraints that didn't hurt, in lighting that didn't blind, surrounded by silence that felt deliberately peaceful. Her Mjolnir armor was gone. She wore a simple gray prisoner's uniform, and across from her, sitting with the casual patience of someone who'd been waiting hours, sat a Sith. Not a warrior. Not a lord dripping with combat scars and rage. This one was lean, middle-aged, and with thoughtful eyes that studied her like a specimen worth understanding. Spartan-309, he said, his voice cultured, almost gentle. I am Darth Vorin. Welcome. You've been unconscious for 3 days. A 309's augmented mind cataloged everything instantly. Interrogation room, single exit, no weapons within reach. Captor maintaining non-threatening posture. Standard prisoner assessment complete. Where's my team? Her voice stayed level. Safe. Searching for you, certainly, but unsuccessfully. Vorin smiled without menace. We staged your capture carefully. Made it look like you died in the explosion at Agamar. Your Spartans believe you're dead. The Republic believes you're dead. Only I know the truth. Then you've miscalculated. When they realize I'm missing, they won't. We recovered enough biological matter to fake DNA confirmation. Your people are quite thorough with their casualty verification protocols. Vorin leaned forward slightly. You're dead. With 309, which means this conversation exists outside your war, outside your obligations. We can speak honestly. A 309's tactical assessment shifted. Torture she could resist. Interrogation she was trained for. But conversation? That wasn't in any manual. What do you want? To show you something. Vorin produced a data pad, set it on the table between them. I've spent 3 months studying your people. Not how to kill you. That's easy enough. But understanding what you are. Now, do you know what I found? Silence. You were abducted at age 6 from Earth Colony Jericho 7. Replaced with a flash clone that died within months. Your parents, Michael and Sarah Rodriguez, never knew their daughter had been taken. They buried a stranger and mourned you for years. Vorin's voice remained gentle. Would you like to see them? The data pad activated. Video footage, grainy with age. A man and woman standing at a small gravestone, holding each other as they wept. A 309's augmented heart rate increased 3 beats per minute. Emotional response containment, failing. You were told you were saving humanity, Vorin continued. That your sacrifice was necessary. Noble. The Jedi tell their Padawans the same thing. Serve the Force. Trust destiny. Your families gave you up willingly. Except yours didn't. Your parents never chose this. Neither did you. I volunteered for. You were 6. Vorin's voice cut through her justification with surgical precision. Children don't volunteer. They obey. You were taken, modified, trained, and told it was necessary. Just like the Jedi take Force-sensitive children and tell their parents it's an honor. Different words. 309. Same theft. A 309's hands clenched. I've saved thousands of lives. That justifies, does it? Vorin stood, began pacing slowly. Tell me, how many civilians did you kill at Jericho? None. We neutralized military targets only. Interesting phrasing. Were neutralized, not killed. The bombardment platforms you destroyed had crews of 60. 60 soldiers doing their duty, following orders. You killed 180 people in 8 minutes. Do you know their names? They were enemy combatants. They were humans. Sons, daughters, some with families. You killed them efficiently, professionally, without hesitation. Because you were trained not to see them as people. Just objectives. Vorin stopped pacing. The Sith are honest about what we are. We embrace passion, power, the freedom to choose our destiny. But you believe you're heroes, while executing orders you never questioned. A 309's voice remained steady, despite the spike in her heart rate. I choose to protect the Republic. Do you? Or were you programmed to? Vorin returned to his seat. 309, I'm going to prove something to you. Right now, this moment, you have a choice. I can release you. No tricks, no traps. But you walk out, return to your team, continue the war, or, he paused, you stay. Learn what the Sith actually are. Discover whether your loyalty is choice or conditioning. That's not a choice, that's defection. Is it? Or is it the first genuine choice you've ever made? Vorin's eyes locked on hers. Every decision in your life has been predetermined, abducted, augmented, deployed. You've never chosen anything. Not once. So I'm offering you what the Republic never has. Actual freedom. A 309's tactical training screamed trap, but something else, something deeper, something her augmentations couldn't suppress, whispered a more disturbing question. Can I prove him wrong? Why? She asked. Why invest this effort in one Spartan? Because the Republic is learning to trust you over the Jedi. They see you as incorruptible, immune to Sith influence. But you're not immune. You're just unaware. Vorin smiled without cruelty. I'm not trying to turn you evil, 309. I'm trying to show you that good and evil are choices, and you've never been allowed to choose. He stood, moved to the door. I'm leaving this datapad. It contains files, your abduction records, augmentation procedures, casualty statistics from missions you've run. Information the Republic doesn't want you accessing. Read them, then decide if you're fighting for freedom or following programming. The door opened. Vorin paused. The door will unlock in 1 hour. You can leave. Or you can stay and learn whether your loyalty is genuine or engineered. Either way, 309, for the first time in your life, the choice is actually yours. He left. A 309 sat alone with the datapad, with questions that had no tactical answers, with a growing horror that maybe, the Sith was right. And she'd killed 180 people at Serico without knowing their names. She'd followed orders her entire life without questioning their source. She'd trusted that protecting the Republic was right because someone told her it was when she was too young to understand. Am I a soldier or a weapon? Do I protect them because it's right or because I was designed to? If I walked out right now, would I be choosing freedom or following programming that says, never surrender? The datapad waited till the door would unlock in 57 minutes. And for the first time since waking from cryosleep, Spartan 309 faced something her training hadn't prepared her for. The possibility that everything she believed about herself was a lie. Aboard the Vindication, Spartan B-312 reviewed casualty reports from Agamar. A 309's biosignature had gone dark. DNA confirmation matched. Standard battlefield death, orbital bombardment, no body recovery possible. He closed the file with mechanical efficiency. She's dead, he reported to the team. A 309 confirmed KIA. Update operational rosters accordingly. Around him, Spartans absorbed the loss with practiced stoicism. They'd lost teammates before. They'd lose more before the war ended. It was expected, acceptable, part of the mission parameters. But in the silence after the briefing, B-312 stood alone and felt something his augmentations shouldn't allow. Doubt. A 309 died following my orders. Was her sacrifice necessary? Or did I spend her life because I was trained to value objectives over people? He had no answer. And somewhere in a Sith facility, a 309 read files about children stolen and modified and deployed, and wondered if the real enemy was the one who'd taken her freedom, or the one offering to give it back. The holographic star chart showed the Chorbani system in amber. Contested. Critical. The keystone holding 3 sectors together. Lose Chorbani, and the Republic's entire eastern front collapsed. Admiral Weft stood at the briefing table surrounded by officers whose faces reflected the same grim calculation. They had to win this battle. Across from him, Master Zez Kai El meditated, his ancient features troubled. Beside the Admiral, Spartan B-312 studied tactical projections with mechanical precision. The Sith fleet will arrive in 18 hours, Weft began. Intelligence suggests 40 capital ships, 300 starfighters, and, he paused, and Darth Malak personally commanding. Malak. Zez Kai El's voice carried weight. His presence is significant. Significant how? Weft asked. The dark side surrounds him like a storm. His power is immense. If he enters this battle, so many will die. B-312's helmeted head tilted toward the tactical display. Confirmed Sith force composition? 3 dreadnoughts, 12 cruisers, 25 frigates, Weft replied. Against our 6 cruisers and 18 frigates. We're outnumbered 3-1. Correct. Which is why Strategic Command is debating whether to engage at all. Retreat isn't an option, B-312 said immediately. Lose Chorbani, lose the sector. Lose the sector. As Sith forces push another 1,000 light-years into Republic space, the math is absolute. The math is not the issue. Zez Kai El's eyes opened, ancient and troubled. I have consulted the Force. It warns of catastrophe. I see fleets burning, thousands dying. The Force is absolute in its warning. If we fight this battle, we lose everything. Define everything, B-312 said. Not just the battle. The war. The Force shows futures branching from this moment. In every path where we engage at Chorbani, the Republic falls within a year. The room fell silent. Officers exchanged glances that mixed hope with dread. And if we retreat? Weft asked carefully. The path becomes unclear, difficult. But the catastrophic futures fade. Survival becomes possible. B-312's tactical assessment ran for 3 seconds. Master Zez Kai El, the Force has warned you before. At Vindication, you predicted catastrophe if we remained. I ignored your warning. 4,000 lives were saved. That was different. The Force didn't show. The Force didn't see me stopping the reactor because the Force can't see me. B-312's voice carried no heat, just factual precision. Your visions account for variables the Force can sense. They don't account for what we'll do, because we're invisible to prophecy. You're suggesting the Force is wrong. Zez Kai El's voice rose. I'm suggesting the Force is incomplete. You see futures where we lose. I see tactics where we win. Both can't be true. Admiral Weft raised his hands. Gentlemen, we're not debating philosophy. Strategic Command needs a recommendation. Master Zez Kai El, you're saying retreat. Noble Six, you're saying engage. I need consensus. There is no consensus, Zez Kai El said quietly. There is the Force's will, and there is arrogance. The Jedi Order has guided the Republic for millennia by trusting prophecy. Spartans have been here for months. Which wisdom do you trust? Admiral? B-312 pulled up tactical overlays. Show me the Force's vision. What specifically causes the catastrophe? Zez Kai El's hesitation spoke volumes. The Force doesn't provide tactical details. It shows outcomes, feelings, the weight of futures collapsing. So you can't tell me what we'll face, just that we'll lose. The Force hasn't fought an enemy that can corrupt Force visions. B-312's helmet turned toward the Admiral. Sir, so I've analyzed Sith fleet doctrine for 3 months. Their advantage is Force precognition. They know what you'll do before you do it, because their Force users read battle meditation. But they can't read us. Can't predict Spartan tactics. Can't see what's invisible to the Force. You're asking me to ignore a Jedi Master's prophecy based on… what? Confidence? Weft's voice strained. Based on data. Based on 12 successful operations, where Spartan tactics defeated superior forces. Based on the fact that every time a Jedi has predicted our failure, we've succeeded by doing exactly what the Force said was impossible. Because you're lucky, Zez Kai-El said, and suddenly his ancient calm cracked into something raw. You've been fortunate, blessed by circumstances you don't understand, but luck runs out. Faith endures. We don't rely on luck, Master. We rely on training, tactics, and certainty. B-312's voice dropped. You see catastrophe. I see a 3-to-1 fight that's survivable if we exploit Sith overconfidence. They're expecting scared Republic forces making predictable Force-guided decisions. They're not expecting coordinated Spartan Jedi operations, where half the battlefield is invisible to their precognition. Weft looked between them. Ancient wisdom versus mechanical certainty. Prophecy versus tactics. The weight of 3,000 years of tradition against 3 months of undeniable results. I need to decide in 6 hours, Weft said quietly. Master Zez Kai-El, can you provide more specific Force guidance? The Force shows what it shows. I cannot force clarity. Noble 6, can you guarantee victory? No, sir. I can guarantee we have better odds fighting than retreating. Retreat guarantees sector collapse. Fighting gives us 47% survival probability. 47%, Weft repeated. And the Force predicts catastrophe. The Force predicts catastrophe in futures where Spartans aren't accounted for. Zez Kai-El stood, his diminutive form somehow filling the room with presence. Admiral, I have served the Republic for 400 years. I have never given false prophecy. If you ignore the Force's warning, you doom us all. B-312 remained still. Sir, I've been a soldier for 15 years. I've never lost a battle where I controlled tactical variables. If you trust prophecy over tactics, you surrender our only advantage. Admiral Weft sat alone between faith and certainty, between wisdom and confidence, between traditions that had protected the Republic for millennia and results that had saved it for months. Dismissed, he said quietly. Both of you. I'll announce my decision at 1800 hours. In the temple meditation chambers, Padawan Zane Carrick found Master Vandar sitting in darkness. Master, have you decided? What about Chorbani? The council is divided, Vandar admitted. Half trust Zez Kai-El's vision, half trust Spartan tactics. We cannot reach consensus. What does the Force show you? Vandar's ancient eyes found Zane's in the darkness. Nothing, Padawan. For the first time in 800 years, when I reach for guidance about our future, the Force shows me silence, as if futures have become so tangled that even the Force cannot see clearly. Because of the Spartans. Because the Spartans exist outside prophecy. Their presence makes the future uncertain, clouded, not with darkness, with absence. Vandar's voice carried weight. The Force has always shown us the path. Now it shows us only questions. And I fear, Padawan, that we have forgotten how to walk without its guidance. At 1800 hours, Admiral Weft stood before the fleet command staff. We engage at Chorbani. All Republic forces will prepare for battle. Spartan tactical doctrine will guide our strategy. Jedi forces will provide support. He paused, seeing Zez Kai-El's face collapse into horror. May the Force forgive me if I'm wrong. You won't need forgiveness, Zez Kai-El said quietly. You'll need miracles. And miracles, Admiral, come from faith, not from soldiers who cannot feel the Force's warning. The Admiral said nothing. The orders went out. And across the fleet, Republic forces prepared for a battle where half believed in victory and half believed in prophesied doom. Spartans checked weapons with mechanical efficiency. Jedi meditated on visions of catastrophe. And somewhere between faith and certainty, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to learn which was stronger, the Force's 3,000-year wisdom, or one Spartan's tactical certainty. The battle would answer, and whatever the answer, nothing would ever be the same. The Chorbani battle lasted 14 hours and ended in blood. Republic victory. Barely. 47% survival probability, B312 had calculated. Final casualty rate, 53%. He'd been wrong, 6 percentage points. 2,300 lives. The mathematics haunted him. In the Vindication's medical bay, B312 stood among rows of wounded. Jedi with severed limbs. Republic soldiers with burns that medical droids couldn't heal fast enough. And 3 Spartans whose Mjolnir armor had failed under sustained fire. Master Zez Kai-El found him there, the ancient Jedi's face carrying neither triumph nor accusation, just exhausted sorrow. We won, Zez Kai-El said quietly. 53% casualties. But we won. The sector is secure. The Sith retreated. The Master paused. The Force was wrong. Or I was. I'm not certain which troubles me more. B312's helmeted head turned toward a Spartan, Spartan B270, whose legs had been crushed when his armor's force multipliers failed. The Spartan would never walk again, would never fight again. 16 years old, augmented since age 6, broken. Was it worth it? B312 asked. That's not a question I expected from you. 2,300 lives, 3 Spartans permanently disabled. We secured one system. Was the trade acceptable? Zez Kai-El had no answer. The debriefing room held 12 Republic officers, 4 Jedi Masters, and 8 Spartans. Admiral Weft stood at the head of the table, his face aged a decade in 14 hours. Chorbani is secured. Sith forces retreated after losing their flagship. Strategic Command considers this a decisive victory. Weft's voice carried no celebration. But the cost was higher than projected. We need to understand why. The Sith adapted, B312 said. They're learning Spartan tactics. At Serico, they fought us like Force users, trying mind tricks, precognition, Force lightning. At Chorbani, they fought us like soldiers. Concentrated fire, overlapping fields, standard military doctrine. They're learning we're just human under the armor. You said we'd win, Master Vrook interjected, his voice sharp with barely suppressed rage. You overrode a Jedi Master's prophecy with your calculations, and thousands died. We did win. The sector is secure. At what cost? Vrook stood. Noble Six, your confidence cost us half our fleet. The Force warned us. We ignored it, and people died because we trusted your certainty over wisdom. B-312's response came after 3 seconds of silence. You're right. The room froze. Spartans didn't admit error, didn't show doubt. They were machines of certainty wrapped in human flesh. I calculated 47% survival probability. Actual result was 53% casualties. 6 percentage point error. In Spartan doctrine, that margin is unacceptable. The fault is mine. B-312's voice remained level, but something beneath it had fractured. Master Zez Kai-El's prophecy was correct. I was wrong. I cost lives by trusting data over the Force. Noble 6, Admiral Weft began. No, sir. I need to understand why I was wrong. B-312 pulled up tactical recordings. I accounted for every variable. Fleet composition, Spartan effectiveness, Scythe doctrine adaptation. The numbers said we'd win with acceptable losses. They were wrong. Something I can't quantify affected the outcome. The Force, Zez Kai-El said softly. The variable you cannot account for. The element beyond calculation. Then teach me. How do I factor the Force into tactical planning when I can't sense it? The request hung in the air like a grenade with an pulled pin. You can't, Master Vondar said from his seat. The Force is not data. It is not quantifiable. It simply is. And you, the Noble 6, are asking how to calculate the incalculable. Then I'm useless. Every tactical projection I make is incomplete. Every strategy is flawed. I'm fighting a war where half the battlefield is invisible to me. B-312's hands clenched. How do I lead when I'm blind? Before anyone could answer, the chamber doors opened. A Republic intelligence officer entered, his face pale. Admiral, we've decoded a Sith transmission. You need to see this. The holographic display activated. On a recording, grainy, clearly captured from a Sith facility. And in the center of the image, sitting calmly across from a Sith interrogator. Spartan-309. Alive. The room erupted. Spartans stood. Officers shouted questions. And B-312 stood frozen, processing an impossibility. She died at Agamar. DNA confirmation, there's no way. Watch, the intelligence officer said. The recording played. Darth Vorin speaking quietly, showing A-309 datapads filled with information. Her parents mourning a grave holding someone else. Augmentation records, training protocols, child abduction procedures, and a 309's face as she read, as she understood, as everything she believed about herself cracked. This was transmitted deliberately, the intelligence officer said. The Sith want us to see this. They want us to know they have her. And they want us to know what they're showing her. What? Admiral Weft demanded. Not the truth about what Spartans are. B-312's world narrowed to the holographic image of A-309, his teammate, his fellow soldier, learning that everything they'd been told was built on stolen childhoods and engineered obedience. Get me her location, B-312 said, his voice emptied of everything but purpose. Immediately. Noble 6, this is clearly a trap, Vrook began. I don't care, she's my responsibility. Get me her location or I'll find it myself. You can't authorize. B-312 removed his helmet. Officers who'd worked with him for months saw his face for the first time. Young, scarred, gray eyes that had witnessed horrors no one his age should carry. And in those eyes, something beyond tactical certainty. Desperation. I was wrong at Chorbani. I trusted calculations over prophecy, and people died. But A309 is alive. She's captured. And she's learning that everything we believe about ourselves might be a lie. His voice cracked microscopically. I can't calculate my way out of this. I can't quantify what happens if she decides the Sith are telling the truth. All I know is she's my teammate, and I won't leave her. Master Vandar studied the young Spartan with ancient eyes. Even if retrieving her costs more lives, even if the Force warns against it, even then. B312's gray eyes found Vandar's. Because unlike tactics and prophecies, loyalty isn't something you calculate. It's something you choose. And I choose to bring her home. Silence held for 5 seconds. The transmission originated from Korriban, the intelligence officer said quietly. Sith homeworld, their most fortified planet. Recovering her would require infiltrating the heart of their empire. Then I infiltrate. Alone? If necessary. That's suicide, Admiral Weft said. Probably. B312 replaced his helmet. But it's the right choice, and maybe that's more important than certainty. Master Vandar felt something shift in the chamber, not in the Force, because B312 remained invisible to it. But in the space where certainty had been, something new grew. A Spartan choosing mission over mathematics, faith over calculation. Not because prophecy guided him, but because loyalty demanded it. I'll authorize a reconnaissance mission, Admiral Weft said slowly. Limited team, extraction only. No engagement with Sith forces unless absolutely necessary. Understood. As B312 left to prepare, Master Zez Kai El spoke quietly. He's learning. Learning what? Vrook asked. That some things can't be calculated. Some choices can't be quantified. That being human means sometimes you act despite the numbers telling you it's impossible. The ancient master's voice carried something almost like hope. The Spartans came to us as weapons of certainty. But perhaps they're learning to be something more. Or perhaps, Vrook replied darkly, they're learning our weaknesses, and the Sith are teaching them. Neither master had an answer, and on Korriban, in a cell built for truth rather than torture, Spartan 309 stared at files proving she'd been stolen, modified, and deployed without ever having a choice, and wondered if the soldier coming to rescue her was a friend, or just another victim of the same lie. Jedi Night. Raven stood in the temple archives at 0300 hours, surrounded by holographic records that made his crisis of faith impossible to ignore. Battle of Serico. Jedi prediction, Republic defeat. Actual outcome, Republic victory. Spartan tactical intervention. Battle of Taurus. Force vision warned catastrophic casualties. Spartans ignored warning. Civilian evacuation succeeded. 12% casualties instead of projected 67%. Battle of Chorbani. Master Zez Kai El prophesied total defeat. Spartans engaged anyway. Republic victory. 53% casualties. 17 battles. 17 times the Force had warned. 17 times Spartans had ignored prophecy and achieved results the Force said were impossible. You should be meditating, Master Vrook's voice came from behind him, not dwelling on this. This? Revan turned. Master, the data is absolute. Every time we trust the Force over Spartan tactics, we lose more lives. Every time we ignore prophecy, we save them. How do I reconcile that? The Force guides us toward right action. Not always victory, not always survival, but righteousness. Tell that to the 2,000 who died at Chorbani, because I followed Master Zez-Kai-El's vision instead of Noble Six's tactics. Revan's voice carried new edge. The Force showed catastrophe. Six showed certainty. I chose prophecy. People died. You cannot blame yourself for... I can. I do. Revan pulled up another file. Master, I've been analyzing Spartan doctrine. Do you know what it's built on? Not faith, not prophecy, but observable results. They test, adapt, improve based on what actually works, not what should work according to ancient tradition. Revan, you're treading dangerous ground. Am I? Or am I asking questions we should have asked centuries ago? Revan's intensity filled the archives. The Sith learned to corrupt Force visions. We kept trusting prophecy anyway. We lost system after system while consulting the Force for guidance that never came. And then soldiers arrived who don't need guidance, who just act, and suddenly we're winning. Vrook's weathered features hardened. You're questioning 3,000 years of Jedi wisdom. I'm questioning whether wisdom that loses wars is actually wise. The silence between them carried weight that transcended words. I'm assigning you to the Korriban extraction mission, Vrook said finally. So perhaps seeing Spartans in action will remind you of their limitations. Or perhaps, Revan replied quietly, it will prove they don't have the limitations we've been telling ourselves they must have. The Sith facility on Korriban was a temple of dark side architecture, all sharp angles and oppressive geometry, designed to break spirits through environmental pressure alone. B-312 led the extraction team through maintenance tunnels with mechanical precision. Behind him, 4 Spartans, 2 Republic commandos, and Jedi Knight Revan, whose presence in the Force supposedly provided tactical advantage. 200 meters to A-309's holding cell, B-312 said over team comms, Sith patrol patterns rotate every 11 minutes. We have a 7-minute window. The Force warns of danger ahead, Revan said, his hand on his lightsaber. The Force always warns of danger in enemy facilities, B-312 replied. Can you be more specific? No, just presence, dark side energy, and something waiting. Understood. We proceed as planned. They moved like coordinated violence through corridors that thrummed with dark side power. 2 Sith guards died before their Force precognition registered threat, because the Force couldn't warn them about enemies it couldn't sense. The cell door opened to reveal a 309 sitting calmly, still wearing her prisoner uniform, her expression unreadable. 6, she said. Her voice carried no relief, no joy, just exhaustion. 309, well, you're alive. We're extracting you now. Am I being rescued or retrieved? The question hung like a blade. B-312's helmet tilted. Both. You're coming home. Home. A 309 stood slowly. 6. Do you know why they took us? At age 6? Why they chose children? This isn't the time. Because children obey without questioning. Because young minds accept programming more completely. Because if you steal someone before they develop identity, you can make them into anything. Her voice remained level, clinical. I've spent 3 days learning what we are, what was done to us. And 6, we're not soldiers. We're weapons that think we chose to be soldiers. 309, You've been subjected to psychological warfare. Whatever they told you was true, documented, verified. She picked up a data pad. Flash cloning records, abduction protocols, augmentation mortality rates. It's all here, 6. Everything they told us was necessary was actually just expedient. And we were stolen because stealing was easier than asking. Revan spoke quietly. The Sith are masters of manipulation. They show you truth wrapped in lies, fact wrapped in poison. And the Jedi take Force-sensitive children from their families and call it an honor. 309 interrupted. Different words, Knight Revan. Same theft. You just do it with parental permission and mystical justification. The accusation landed like a thermal detonator. Revan's hand tightened on his lightsaber, so not in threat, but in recognition that she was right. We don't have time for philosophy, B312 said. We need to move. Do we? A 309 asked. 6, I'm standing here unarmed, unarmored, and you led a team through Sith territory to retrieve me. Why? Orders? Programming? Or actual choice? Because you're my teammate. Your teammate. Your responsibility. Another mission parameter. A 309's voice cracked microscopically. 6, can you prove you came here because you wanted to? Or did you come because that's what Spartans are programmed to do? Complete the mission, never leave anyone behind. Follow doctrine without questioning? B312 stood silent for 3 seconds. I can't prove it, he admitted. I don't know if my loyalty is choice or conditioning. All I know is when I learned you were alive, every calculation said retrieving you was tactically unsound. 53% mission failure probability. 78% chance of casualties. 13% chance of total team loss. His voice steadied. I came anyway. Maybe that's programming. Maybe it's choice. But it's what I am. A 309 studied him through her datapad's glow. What if what we are is wrong? What if protecting the Republic isn't righteousness, but just obedience with better marketing? Then we're no different than battle droids, B312 said. And if we're no different than battle droids, this conversation is meaningless because neither of us can actually choose anything. So either we have free will and we choose to act despite uncertainty, or we're machines and nothing matters. Which is it? I don't know. B312's helmet turned toward the door, where Sith reinforcements would arrive in 90 seconds. But I know I'm choosing to get you out of here. Whether that's programming or free will, I choose to believe it's real. A 309 picked up her datapad, held it for a moment, and then dropped it. The device shattered against the floor, scattering files about stolen childhoods and engineered soldiers. Okay, she said quietly. I choose to believe it too. The extraction turned into running combat through corridors where Sith Lords tried to cut them off, and Revan's lightsaber became a blur of defensive strikes. But what stayed with him wasn't the fighting. It was watching B312 and A309 fight back to back with synchronized precision that transcended tactics. They moved like parts of the same weapon, anticipating each other's actions not through the Force, but through trust, built over years of shared combat. The Jedi called it battle meditation. The Spartans called it teamwork. The result was the same: 2 soldiers fighting as one. They reached the extraction point with Sith forces converging. The Republic shuttle screamed in through defensive fire, its pilot performing evasive maneuvers that violated physics and common sense. As they lifted off, a 309 sat beside B-312 in silence. Finally, 6. What if we're both right? What if we were built to obey but choose to anyway? What if the programming is real, but we decide it's worth following? Then we're more than weapons, B-312 replied. We're soldiers who chose what we were made to be. Revan listened from across the shuttle bay, his Jedi training screaming that this was wrong, dangerous, heretical, and his experience watching them fight, whispering that maybe this was more honest than anything he'd learned in the temple. Spartans weren't guided by destiny, weren't chosen by cosmic forces, weren't blessed with prophecy. They just decided what they valued and fought for it despite uncertainty. And in that moment, Revan, Jedi Knight, servant of the Force, believer in ancient wisdom, felt something crack in his foundation. What if certainty is stronger than faith? What if choosing is more powerful than being chosen? The questions had no answers the Force provided. So Revan did something no Jedi had done in 3 millennia of tradition. He stopped asking the Force and started deciding for himself. And that decision, more than any battle or prophecy, changed everything. The Jedi Council chamber had never felt smaller. 12 masters sat in their traditional circle, facing a soldier who shouldn't exist. Spartan B-312 stood at parade rest, helmet held under one arm, gray eyes meeting each master's gaze without flinching. Behind him, Jedi Knight Revan stood in witness. The young Jedi's presence felt different now, less reverent, more questioning. You defied direct orders, Master Vrook began, his voice carrying aristocratic disdain. Mo infiltrated Korriban against Strategic Command's explicit restrictions. Risked Republic assets for one Spartan who may be compromised by Sith psychological warfare. Yes, Master. No justification. No apology. You acknowledge your actions were insubordinate? I acknowledge my actions violated Republic military protocol. I don't acknowledge they were wrong. The chamber tensed. Jedi didn't argue with the Council. Soldiers didn't question orders. But Spartans existed in the space between, neither Jedi nor standard military. Noble 6, Master Vandar said gently. Help us understand. You've been with us for 7 months. In that time, you've achieved victories we thought impossible. But you've also questioned our traditions, ignored Force guidance, and challenged assumptions the Order has held for millennia. What do you seek? B-312 was silent for 5 seconds, processing. When he spoke, his voice carried weight that transcended tactical reports. I seek to understand what I am. You're a soldier, Master Kavar said. No, Master. Soldiers choose to serve. I was built to serve. There's a difference. B-312's eyes swept the Council. For 7 months, I've fought your war, saved your civilians, bled for your Republic. And every victory raises the same question. Am I protecting them because it's right, or because someone programmed me to when I was too young to refuse? The Sith have poisoned your thinking, Vrook began. The Sith showed me documentation, medical records, abduction protocols, everything the Republic recovered from our ships, but didn't share with us. B312's voice didn't rise, but gained intensity. I was 6 years old when they took me, replaced with a clone that died within months. My parents mourned a stranger while I was being surgically modified to exceed human limitations. That's not service. That's theft. Master Vandar's ancient features showed deep sadness. And yet you continue fighting for us. Why? Because the alternative is accepting I'm just a weapon that thinks it's a person. B312's hands clenched. If I stop fighting, if I question every order, every loyalty, every instinct, I have to accept that nothing I've ever done was actually my choice. That every person I saved, every mission I completed, every teammate I protected was just programming executing. And I can't accept that. So you choose to believe you have free will despite evidence suggesting otherwise, Master Zez Kai-El observed. Yes, that's faith, Noble Six, not certainty. The observation hung in the air like a revelation. Faith, B312 repeated slowly. I've been fighting your war telling myself I was different from you. That I operate on certainty while you operate on prophecy. That my choices were real while yours were guided by mystical forces you can't question. He paused. But we're the same. You were taken as children and trained to serve the Force. I was taken as a child and trained to serve humanity. Different words, same theft. You choose to believe the Force guides you toward righteousness. I choose to believe my programming guides me toward justice. Both are acts of faith. The council sat in stunned silence. He understands, Master Vandar whispered. He's been compromised, Vrook countered. This is exactly what the Sith wanted. To make him question his foundations, to introduce doubt, to introduce honesty, Revan interrupted. Every master turned to stare at the knight who'd just spoken without permission. Knight Revan, Vrook's voice carried warning. Did you overstep? I overstep because I've spent 3 months watching Spartans achieve what the Force said was impossible. I've seen them ignore prophecy and save lives. I've watched them operate without guidance and make righteous choices. And I've asked myself the question none of us want to answer. What if the Force isn't infallible? What if prophecy is just another form of programming we don't question because we were taught not to? Knight Revan, you are dangerously close to what? To heresy? Darkness? Revan's voice rose with passionate intensity. Masters, the Sith have been defeating us for 5 years because they learned to corrupt Force visions. We kept trusting prophecy anyway. We lost system after system consulting the Force for guidance it couldn't provide. And then soldiers arrived who don't need guidance, who just decide what's right and act on it. And suddenly we're winning. Winning at what cost? Master Vrook stood. Our traditions eroded, our faith questioned. Padawans asking whether the Force matters. This is not victory. This is corruption. This is evolution, Revan countered. The galaxy is changing. The Sith adapted. The Spartans adapted. And we, he gestured at the council, we sit in these chairs citing 3,000-year traditions, while the Republic burns because we're too proud to admit those traditions might be insufficient. Insufficient? Vrook's voice shook with rage. The Force is eternal, unchanging. Then why can't it see them? Revan pointed at B312. Why do the Spartans appear as voids in the Force? Why does prophecy fail when they're involved? Either the Force is incomplete, or they exist outside its jurisdiction. Either answer means our traditions need examination. Master Vandar raised one small hand. Silence crashed over the chamber. Enough. The ancient master's voice carried absolute authority. Knight Revan, you will return to meditation chambers. We will discuss your perspective later. Noble Six, you will remain. Revan left, his parting glance at B-312, carrying solidarity that transcended Jedi-Spartan divisions. Vandar studied B-312 with eyes that had witnessed 8 centuries of galactic history. Noble Six, you came to the Republic as a weapon. You fought as a weapon. You achieved what weapons do. Victory through overwhelming force. But now you ask questions weapons don't ask. You doubt what weapons cannot doubt. Tell this council, what are you? B-312 stood silent, processing 8 centuries of Jedi wisdom, waiting for an answer he didn't have. I don't know, Master. The admission cost him visible effort. I know what I was built to be. I know what I've done. But I don't know if any of it was real. If my loyalty is genuine, or just programming with good marketing. If protecting the Republic is righteousness or obedience. He paused. All I know is I keep choosing to believe it's real. That my decisions matter. That my teammates' lives matter. That the civilians I save are worth saving, not because someone programmed me to value them, but because I've decided they have worth. That's all any of us know, Vandar said softly. The Jedi believe the Force guides us. We choose to have faith in that guidance, despite centuries of evidence that the Force is fallible, that prophecy fails, that even masters fall to darkness. We choose faith over certainty. And you, so Noble Six, you're learning to do the same. But masters, B-312's voice carried new urgency. If both Jedi and Spartans operate on faith, if neither of us can prove our choices are truly free, what separates us from the Sith, who also choose what they believe? The question detonated like a thermal charge. The Sith choose power over service, Master Kavar said carefully. And we choose service over autonomy, B-312 replied. The Jedi take Force-sensitive children and train them to serve galactic good. Spartans were taken as children and trained to protect humanity. Both involve taking children too young to consent and molding them into weapons for causes they didn't choose. The Sith at least are honest that they serve themselves. You compare the Jedi Order to child abductors? Vrook's voice threatened to shatter the chamber's walls. I compare what was done to me to what's done to Padawans. On both involve taking children. Both involve training them for war. Both involve making them believe their lack of choice is actually destiny. B-312's gray eyes found Vrook's. The difference, Master, is the Jedi ask permission. My creators didn't. But the children stolen or taken by permission are equally unable to refuse. Master Vandar closed his eyes, feeling the weight of implications that reached back millennia. You're asking us to question the Order's fundamental practice, than the taking of Force-sensitive children for training. I'm asking you the question the Sith asked me. Did you choose to protect the galaxy, or were you designed to? And if you can't answer that with certainty, if you only have faith, then what right do you have to judge soldiers who have the same doubt? Silence filled the chamber like vacuum filling a breached hull. Finally, Vandar opened his ancient eyes. Noble Six, you came to us as an answer, a weapon the Force couldn't predict. Soldiers who win battles we thought lost. But you're not an answer. You're a question. And the question is this: what happens to a galaxy when its protectors stop believing they were chosen? I don't know, Master. B312's voice steadied. But I know what happens when they stop questioning. They become like my creators, so certain of their righteousness that they steal children and call it necessary. So sure of their purpose that they engineer soldiers and call it salvation. The Jedi take Force-sensitive children because you believe it's for the greater good. My creators took baseline humans because they believed it was for humanity's survival. Different justifications. Same theft. Then what do you propose? Master Kovar asked. That the Jedi stop training Padawans? That the Order end? I propose you ask them. B312's response came without hesitation. Ask Force-sensitive children if they want to be Jedi. Give them actual choice. To let them refuse without consequence, and if they choose to join, then their service is genuine, not coerced by destiny. They were too young to question. The Force calls them. The Force doesn't call, Master. It exists. You interpret its existence as calling. Just like my creators interpreted humanity's survival needs as justification for stealing children. Both are adults, deciding what children should become before those children can decide for themselves. Master Vandar felt something ancient and fundamental crack in his understanding. 800 years of service, 800 years of believing the Force chose him, guided him, made his sacrifices meaningful. And one Spartan in 10 minutes had made him question whether any of it was real. This council will deliberate, Vandar said quietly. Noble Six, you're dismissed. But understand, you've asked questions that will fracture the Order. Questions that may destroy us. Or questions that might save you from becoming what my creators became. So certain of righteousness that you forget to ask if you're right. B312 replaced his helmet, saluted with precision that felt more human than mechanical, and walked from the chamber, leaving 12 Jedi Masters staring at empty space and feeling their foundations crumble. In the temple gardens, B312 found AWO 309 sitting beneath a meditation tree, staring at stars. What did you tell them? She asked. The truth. That we don't know if our choices are real, that they don't either, that maybe faith is all any of us have. And they accepted that. They're still deciding. B312 sat beside her. 309. I realized something in that chamber. We'll never know if we're real. Never know if our loyalty is genuine or programmed. We can't prove free will exists. That's terrifying. That's life. B312's helmet turned toward distant stars. Everyone operates on faith. The Jedi have faith in the Force. The Republic has faith in democracy. The Sith have faith in power. And we, he paused, we have faith that our choices matter, despite evidence suggesting we never had choices at all. Is that enough? It has to be, because the alternative is surrendering, accepting we're weapons, becoming exactly what our creators intended. B312's voice carried new strength. So I choose to believe my decisions are real, that protecting people matters, that my loyalty to you and the team is genuine. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just programming executing flawlessly. But I'd rather live as a person who might be wrong than die as a weapon that was always right. A 309 was silent for long moments. The Sith offered me freedom, showed me proof I was stolen, modified, deployed, and I chose to come back anyway. That has to mean something. It means you're more than what they made you. Or it means I'm such a perfect weapon I chose my chains. Then we're both slaves choosing to believe we're free. B312 stood, offering his hand. But even slaves can fight for something real. Even weapons can protect people worth protecting. And even if our choices aren't real, we can act as if they are until someone proves otherwise. A 309 took his hand. Rose, two soldiers standing in a garden on Coruscant, surrounded by a galaxy at war, questioning everything they'd ever believed about themselves. "What do we do now?" she asked. "We fight. We protect. We choose to believe it matters." B312 looked toward the temple, where masters debated questions without answers. And maybe that choice is the only freedom any of us ever really have. Above them, stars burned in the darkness. Below them, the Republic continued its war against the Sith, and between faith and certainty, between destiny and engineering, between being chosen and being built. Spartans learned what everyone eventually discovers: that consciousness is the act of choosing to believe you exist, that freedom is deciding your chains have meaning, that being human means acting as if your choices matter, even when you can't prove they do. The Force couldn't see them, prophecy couldn't predict them, destiny couldn't claim them, but they chose to fight anyway. And that choice, however uncertain, however doubtful, however impossible to verify, was the most human thing they'd ever done.